it's only 2 minutes past the starting time, and I'm expecting more to join us. But I would like just to explain to Mleva what is Matters Health Association. Matters Health Association is an association which deals with all matters health, creating awareness and enlightening the community so that we are enlightened and we know what we are supposed to know, and so that we can also take care of ourselves and our loved ones. And they say that information is power, so that we can also take good care of our health and be informed. So that's all in a nutshell. That is why we created this forum, so that we can engage, we can educate, we can learn, we can be informed, and we are privileged to have a facilitator who is a lecturer at Kenya Medical Training College, medical department, specializing in chest. He's called Dr. Nicholas Kariuki. But as he had informed me earlier, this week they are having exams, and he didn't want this episode for today not to go on, not to he wanted to proceed. So anytime we are going to be joined by a presenter who is also his colleague as a lecturer, and we shall proceed. Today's topic is about TB, in short, tuberculosis, and I believe that all of us, we must either have had of someone who was affected or infected with TB. So it's an open forum. We can engage and learn more. So at this juncture, I would like to maybe ask Ashford, what Ashford do you know about TB in a minute or two?
Wow, wow. I believe I know a few things about TB. That one is bacterial infection. It can affect many parts of the body, but mostly I think it attacks the respiratory system, especially the lungs, where when somebody gets infected by TB in the lungs, they end up coughing a lot, and sometimes even coughing blood. I know it's a very contagious disease, but once somebody starts treatment, they cannot infect others. I also know that TB is not an easy disease to treat. Understand if you skip medicine, you have to repeat the whole process again. Understand the bacteria is also, it changes very easily with the inadequate treatment. It becomes very stubborn, and the disease can also easily kill. I think I know that much about TB. Have I said enough?
Wow. Okay, Douglas has just left us briefly. I don't know what has happened on his side, but in fact, I was just going to say that I I feel like you are actually the lecturer. I feel like
Ah,
you are, for a minute I thought that you're the doctor actually. So maybe I think you have a medical background, but Bwana Ashford. By the way, karibu sana. It's been a while since we
yes.
had this forum, so it's good to see a familiar face, or to see some familiar term. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that was quite interesting. I'm like, and I'm here thinking, I'm like, is this the doctor, or what's going on? Because that was amazing, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just have
truly,
interest.
Ashford.
I'm not. I've no. I'm not connected in any way with the medical world,
Mm-hmm.
but I love my body, and I love being healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why Health Matters is such a good forum for me. I like knowing about diseases and especially the tough ones that affect people commonly. And so I have my own knowledge about diseases anyway,
Wow.
because I once wanted to be a doctor, which I never became one.
It's never too late.
Well,
It's never too late.
I believe so, but I'm quite, age is catching up with me now.
Okay.
Thank
Douglas,
you.
over to you.
Yeah. Yes, Ashford, that was very, 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 very informative of you. Actually, as James is saying, I thought that you could be the doctor.
Thank
That
you.
was well articulated, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that is very good. That is why I think when we speak like this, we bring out and, as I said, we learn more and we engage one another.
Yeah.
I would like also to take this opportunity to welcome a new guest called Mushina. Mushina, welcome and feel that you are part of us. I'm sure Mleva would like to say something. Mleva, what do you know about TB? Are you hearing me? Okay, okay. Maybe before Mleva say something, Mushina, welcome. Would you say something about TB?
I don't know what has been said, so I don't know what to add.
No. It's not a matter of adding. It is about what you know about TB. Maybe you know someone who has been affected or infected, and the general knowledge about TB. Today's topic is about TB, so we are engaging ourselves in that topic. So you are free to say. It doesn't matter what has been said, because you can still say in another way, and it becomes very informative. Karibu.
Okay, so apparently, what I know about TB, okay, it's obviously okay, mostly it affects any part of the body apart from nails and hair. But the most common one is the pulmonary one, the ones that affect the lungs. For TB, you take what can you say? Start with the symptoms. The major ones are the cough. It can be blood stained or not, but mostly productive. The cough, maybe fever, sweating at night, weight loss. Those are the first and commonest symptoms. So after the symptoms, you may be management. So for managing TB, we manage with 4 drugs, but currently we have like the 4 of them in one. But you take the meds for 6 good months, apart from TB of the maybe the bone, and for the meninges, the TB meningitis. Uh, yeah, a lot can be said about TB, but okay, I'll add as we go on.
Wow. Well, once again, I'm stepping in for Douglas. Maybe his network is a bit shaky. And thank you very much, Mushina, for that description. Quite informative again. I think we are in the midst of medics, if I may say so, because I've also learned this interactive forum. Today I've actually learned something new. I didn't know that TB actually affects does not affect nails. I would not even have thought that it would affect the nails and the hair or anything like that. So what I'm trying to say is that this open forum helps us to enlighten each other, and we sharpen each other. You know, you say something even before the doctor comes in. You say once, you know, when somebody says something that you didn't know or you didn't think about or it never crossed your mind, out of that conversation you pick one or two things. So thank you very much, Muchina, for joining us for the first time. Mleva, again, if you're hearing us, thank you very much. Ashford, for being with us, thank you very much for joining. And Kingstech Cyber, welcome again, thank you very much. Dr. Nicholas, thank you very much for joining. We have been eagerly waiting for you. I see you online, and I appreciate your presence. It's been a while, so welcome, and I'll take this opportunity to give you the chance to continue with the forum. Karibu sana.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Hello.
Dr.
Evening.
Uh, Thank you. I'm a little sorry. I'm a little bit late for joining you, but I think I'm quite encouraged to hear that you guys know about TB. Mushina, that's impressive. You must be a medic, which is good. Um, um, I don't know what else you talked about. If you can be able to give me a summary, I just got where you are you're talking about the different kind of TBs that the TB can affect the body, apart from the hair and the nails, which is very very true. Um, Anything else you had talked about, so that I don't repeat myself as we continue? Douglas, you can summarize.
Thank you, Dr.
I think we've lost you, Douglas.
All right, I'll jump in again.
Okay.
Daktari, well, what we were doing is that we were just exchanging ideas,
Okay.
and we just had an open discussion where everybody says what they know about the topic of the day, which is
Okay.
TB.
Yes.
So we're just going around asking the participants what they know, anything and everything they know about TB in the shortest time possible. Before now,
Okay.
you enlighten us more, and we give you the floor.
Thank
So
you.
actually, Mushina was the last person to contribute, because I think we're having a bit of a problem with Muleva. Maybe either he's not able to hear us or something like that. But actually, the only person who has not told us what they know about TB is Douglas. Maybe he can get another opportunity to summarize himself.
Sawa
Okay,
sawa.
okay, Dr. With your kind permission, I'm sorry that there have been so much interference from my side,
Okay.
but all the same, let's proceed. I think TB to me, okay, it's a bacterial. It is brought by bacterial infection, and it can affect any part of the body except the hair and the nails. And generally, when someone is infected, there are various symptoms like coughing, spitting, and if it is the TB for the chest, then there is pain. And if it affects maybe the joints, then someone can experience symptoms of arthritis. In short, the symptoms come out depending on which part of the body or organ that is affected by the TB. So, in general, it is an air. It is called. It is an air. It is spread through the air, and that's why we should always have proper ventilation. So, I think that's just a few of what I know. But I was thinking. That is my thinking. Generally, the process is too long when someone is taking medication. Normally, it goes like around 6 months. So I was just asking myself, could there be another way, maybe which is being researched, like an injection, whereby you don't have to take all those medication, given in mind that if you skip like 1 day or 2 days, then you have to restart the whole process again. That's my take. Over to you, James.
Oh, yes, fantastic. You're trying to set the bar very high. Eh? Um, yeah, I can see you're trying to set a bar which is very good. Thank you very much, Douglas. That was amazing. That was awesome. Tony Kemboi, karibu sana. Felistas, karibu sana. Feel at home. Thank you for joining us for the first time. Welcome to Matters Health Association. We're just today's topic is TB. We're just trying to exchange ideas and trying to see what we all know generally about TB. And we also have another guest, Mumbua. Welcome very much. Karibu sana. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate your time. I hope you'll be able to gain as much as we are gaining. So far, we have personally I've learned a lot from everybody, and the doctor has not even spoken yet. So I'm wondering, by the time this forum is over today, this session is over, I think we'll have quite gained a lot. So Douglas, that was awesome. I think over to you, Daktari.
Okay, thank you. At least now I know where we are. And I want to start by, first of all, trying to answer Douglas' concern. Yes. In fact, what you need to realize is that a while ago, because there have been so many, so much advancement as far as matters treatment of TB is concerned. I think by the time I was joining the profession, which is more than 30 years ago, treatment for TB was going for 2 years. And most of the treatment was injection. So when you're talking about 6 months being a long duration, then you compared to where we have come from, then you have no idea. But yes, but now looking at it from a different perspective, there's still a lot of research that is going on, and I think there's a probability that could be within the next 6 months to 1 year time, you may have a regime of TB management that might be going for around 3 months, especially for the TB. But looking at it from a different perspective, you need to understand that TB, and that is why I chose, or I thought we needed to go through TB again. That TB is one of the it's one of the most important public health infection of the modern world. For instance, when you're going to visit any country in the world, most often than not, they want to see your chest x-ray. And mainly they want to see your chest x-ray to rule out that you have TB. Why? Because TB, it's quite a contagious disease, especially, and there are things that we take for granted. For instance, when your child is going to join school or college or secondary school, and you're told, take your child for medical checkup before they join school, and at times some of us go through shortcuts. So when you're told to do a chest x-ray, you don't want to do a chest x-ray, you want to go see a doctor friend so that they can be able to write for you a good report so that you don't have issues joining. But you know what that means? That means if one of our children joins school, and especially our public boarding schools where we have a lot of congestion, if one of them has TB, and of course, you know, with congestion, the the issue of aeration, like most of the school nowadays, because of 100% transition, they have triple decker, not double decker anymore. And when you have triple decker and now you have a lot of overcrowding, and just one of them turns positive, you know what that means. One of them has me a positive TB, the probability of everybody in that particular room getting TB is very high. And of course, with the cost associated with the management of TB is also a major thing. By the way, treatment for TB in Kenya is free, but somebody pays for it. If you are to pay for your own treatment for TB, I'm sure it would not be less than anything to do with 30 to 50K. And if you want to confirm that, go to a place like Nairobi Hospital where they have everything private. They'll tell you how much it costs to treat TB. So it's quite an expensive affair. So from public health perspective, we need to look at it from that aspect and start asking ourselves, yes, we know TB is there. So what are the factors that cause TB to spread among us? And now I'll list a few things that that just highlight a few things that I want you to think about, so that when you're indulging or interfering in those, or engaging in those particular areas, you know how to behave yourself. For instance, in matatus, especially in the morning, most of us want or usually prefer to make sure that all the windows of that particular matatu are locked or closed completely. Even if when you have somebody coughing, you still don't want to open those windows. You know what you're doing to yourself. And I'll give you a typical example, because you remember in not very far past, in the recent past, when Bagathi Hospital was still known as IDH, Infection Disease Hospital, most of the matatu drivers and conductors plying that route also developed TB. That is just to tell you how TB is contagious. Just imagine from town to Bagathi or from Bagathi to town, somebody amepata TB. Think about it. What about somebody who is living with that particular person in the house? So when you look at it from that particular perspective, then you have a rough idea. Now, mainly, the main mode of transmission for TB is usually droplets. But of course, there are many other kind of infections that may take place. If you have TB of the ovaries, or TB of the testes, or wherever, or rather anywhere within the reproductive system, then that means it can also be transmitted sexually. Now, if also you get an organ transplant from somebody who has TB, the probability of you also having TB is also very high. That is why even before you do organ donation, then that means they also need to check if you have TB. The other most important thing that you need to put at the back of your mind is that TB currently, because in fact, when we talk about TB, we classify it as a re-emerging disease, because initially, before the advent of HIV, TB was already controlled to some good extent. But now, because of the advent of HIV, and which now lowers body immunity, it has made diagnosis and management of TB to be very difficult. Now, case in point, I'm sure I heard Mushina talk about the signs and symptoms of TB: weight loss, cough, at times with a little bit of fever, and sputum, which might be blood stained, and so on and so forth. Those were the typical signs and symptoms of TB then, when we didn't have when the advent of HIV was not there yet. But now, with the advent of HIV and guys getting TB plus HIV, and that is why most of the time you hear people associating HIV with TB, is just because most of the people who have HIV, because all of us, if I may retract, all of us, one way or the other, have or were immunized against TB when we were born, and most of the children who are born nowadays. And I think from around the time of independence, we used to have the BCG then, and I think even past the time of independent, a little bit earlier then, I mean later, there was a time that most of the people, I mean, there were campaigns that were going on of people to get immunized against TB. Just like whatever we have nowadays, every now and then you hear guys talking about polio vaccines and things like that. There were things like those that were going on then. But now when HIV came in, and that is how TB had been curtailed. When HIV came in, and most of the body immunity started coming down, the immunity of those who are infected came down. That meant when the infected guys who had HIV got TB, they did not react like the normal people because the body immunity is still low. That meant instead of having fever and coughs and things like that, they would have like a cough like that, which people get when they have allergy. So nobody would suspect TB until we realized that when we started them on HIV management, most of these people, I remember around that time in early or mid 1990s, and the year 2000, there was that debate. For those of you who can remember, or those of you who are old enough, you remember there were those the issues that were going around then, where people would say, this guy was started on HIV treatment, and instead of getting better, they are becoming worse. Why? Because when the body starts getting, when the body immunity starts coming up, what usually happens, your immunity is reconstituted. That means your immunity was a little bit too low and it could not detect that there was TB. Then it's